You are listening to Season 3 of Transition Tales, hosted by Christina Herr. Listen to stories from the military community that inspire you to visualize your future and feel empowered to move through your own transitions in life.
Everyone, welcome to Transition Tales. I am your guest host of today. Typically, you will get the introduction from Miss Christina, the awesome, but she wanted to share her transition tale. So now I'm bringing in the show, and I will interview the host with the most. But first things first, what I want to do is just ask Christina to tell us about you. Who are you? What makes you tick?
So I am Christina Herr. I am the owner of Live with Courage, and I do host the Transition Tales podcast most of the time. I am an Air Force veteran. I am a mom of 4. I'm so happy that 3 of them are like adults now. I never thought I'd be happy about this day, but I am. It's so fun to watch them venture out on their own and do different things. I served 11 years in the Air Force. I was a stay-at-home mom and military spouse for about 6 years, contractor with U.S. SOCOM, Special Operations Command, doing resilience and suicide prevention programs and training. I've just had a really interesting journey, and I love the twists and turns that life has taken me on. Towards the end of my time at Hurlburt Field doing the program with SOCOM, I was kind of at a crossroads in my life. I could either continue on that path and I wasn't very fulfilled anymore, or I could just be courageous and start all over somewhere. So my brother had been trying to get me to move to San Antonio for about 3 years, and I quit my job, moved to San Antonio. I lived with my brother for about 6 months, and let me tell you, this has been one of the craziest journeys that I've ever had, because I was a TAP instructor for a little while, transition assistance program. I did resilience again at Fort Sam for about 6 weeks. And then, those things didn't pan out. So I tried to start my own business, and my business has actually taken a couple of different turns. I keep trying to stay on my path of purpose, and it can be challenging because, you get a curveball or somebody else suggests something to you. You'd be like, you'd be amazing at this. And you're like, okay, I'll try it. And, I just have to remember to just try to stay on my path no matter how hard it gets, because it's where my heart is.
That's key. I'm going to revisit that. But as we continue, as people get to know more about you, because you always get other people to
this is so interesting, because I've told my story, but in bits and pieces, in resilience training, but I've never been the on the other side of my podcast.
How's it feel?
It's hard.
Why is it hard?
Well, because when I'm on this end of it, I have to talk more and listen less, and sometimes I feel like I sound stupid. Like I stutter or I lose my words.
It's okay.
I know, that's what editing's for.
It's just being human. All right. So I kind of want to just ask you. You said you did 11 years in the Air Force. Let's take it back. What made you decide to join? So
that's actually a really good story. I have been patriotic since I was very young.
America.
Yeah, America. So my dad was in the Navy, Vietnam veteran, but that was way before I was born. Okay. But he very much respected veterans, and he worked at the Naval Shipyard. So I was still kind of exposed to it, being around the sailors and stuff. But my earliest memory of really caring about the military was I was probably about maybe 6 or 7. And we go to a store, and there's these, old gentlemen out there in their little funny hats and their little funny vests. And my dad hands me a couple $, and I thought I was going to be able to buy candy with it. I was like, "Ooh, awesome, right?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey, go get a poppy from them." And I'm like, "What?" And he told me what it was about, and I loved that little poppy that they gave me. Like, it's something in me clicked.
What the heck is a poppy?
A buddy poppy. You've never seen the buddy poppies? Those little. How do you not know about buddy poppies?
I might know it as something else.
Okay, so when the VFW they sell those little flowers. They're like little orange buddy poppies.
Okay.
Yeah, and
That's what those are called.
yeah, they're called buddy poppies. There's a whole story to them. We're not going to get into that today. That was my earliest memory. And then fast forward to when I had more opportunities to be aligned with the military. When I was in the high school, I was in J.R.O.T.C.
Okay.
Yeah, but here's the funny thing. So I moved high schools about 6 times during my whole high school career. So I had, I know. So I had the opportunity to be in Navy ROTC, Army ROTC, and Air Force ROTC. So I got to experience those different things. And sometimes when they had field trips, we would go to different bases and I would get to experience all that stuff. I learned about military history. I've always loved military movies. So I really wanted to join the military. But I joined the Air Force because my dad forbid me from joining the Navy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just to be a rebel.
He forbid me. So I joined the Air. So he's like, you cannot go in the Navy. It's not a place for women. I wanted to be a naval officer. And then, so he's like, join the Air Force like your brother. Your brother's so successful in the Air Force. And my brother was like, he got BTZ below the zone and made rank and like had all these awards and stuff. Like my brother's an Air Force nerd.
Yeah.
Oh,
he's one of those.
Oh yeah. He's one of those. I am not one of those.
A fast burner. Is that what they call him? A fast burner?
He did burn pretty fast. And then like tech took him a little bit and then he continued growing after that. So he retired as a senior math sergeant.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's his name?
His name is Mike. That's all.
Mike, thank you for your service.
So
we had to do it.
I know. I tried to get him on my podcast too, and he's like, "I don't have a real good story."
What?
And I'm like, "Yes, you do."
So always very patriotic. Bounced around so many different high schools. That had to be killer for your high school career.
I almost didn't graduate high school.
That's a lot.
When I went for my senior year, I left Long Beach. I told my dad, I was like, I'm not going back to these schools. I kept getting in fights and I was like, I'm not doing it. I said, so send me to Arizona or I'm dropping out.
Arizona is a good solution.
And not even just that. It was like this small town in Arizona. Like
which one?
Bullhead City.
Oh, that is a small town.
Yeah.
I would have joined the Air Force too, just to get away.
No, so I went and I went in there and the counselor's like, you're a year and a half behind. So you're either gonna have to have another senior year or you're gonna have to go to alternative school. And I was like, no, I'm graduating on time and I'm not going to alternative school because I'm not pregnant and I'm not a hoodlum. So I didn't, and they found a way for me to graduate. I had to take 4 different levels of English in 1 year.
Oh, wow.
I was in English class with my little cousin. She hated it.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's when I first took charge of my own life.
Yeah. So for those of you who have seen the show before, she will always talk about being someone who self-advocates for herself. And it sounds like it started in high school. Is that safe to say?
Actually, I think it started when I was in group homes, but definitely taking charge of my life started in high school.
Yeah.
And then I went back and forth between living my life according to what my family thinks I should be doing. And like that didn't sit well with me. So I would get a little rebellious every now and again and do my own thing.
It sounds like that rebellion came in the form of like just taking control of your life. And
it did. But it felt very rebellious because I've always conformed. I know you can't imagine that.
No.
Yeah, no.
I cannot imagine the Christina, the one that we know, conforming.
I know, right? So actually I was very good at conforming. I could fit into any situation. I mean, you have to I switched schools 23 times throughout my entire educational period.
Whoa.
We moved around a lot and we were not military. I was in and out of group homes. I was in a lot of different environments and I was really good at conforming.
What made you conform? Like what drove that?
Survival.
Okay. Survival mode.
Oh yeah, definitely. It became a part of my survival and it took a very long time for me to break that habit.
Okay.
It was a part of my misery.
When you did join, was that part of that journey to break that conformity.
That's a horrible story the day I joined the Air Force.
Share
that
it.
is a terrible story.
Share it.
These are so embarrassing.
You have to share
It's
it.
going to be a long podcast, y'all, because these questions he's asking me. Okay.
She wasn't ready.
No, I was not ready for these, but I mean, I guess I got to be honest about who I am, and we've all come from different types of backgrounds. So I knew I wanted to join the military, but I was really trying to figure my life out and be an adult. I did not want to be in my family anymore because of what transpired during my childhood. So I was like, I got to go try to make it on my own. I was working at Burger King and I was working at Subway, and I had a boyfriend, sort of.
Infamous boyfriend.
I know, the infamous boyfriend. And we had a lot of challenges. And so one night, I told him, I was like, hey, you've got to pick. And so here's where what he has to pick between. So he could not just have a parental relationship with his daughter without getting involved with his ex-girlfriend.
That's just how he chose to be.
Yeah, he chose to have two girlfriends, me and her, and then use it as an excuse, his daughter. And he was also not making very good decisions. And I never wanted to continue my life in the environment that I was in. So I told him, I was like, either you pick me or I'm out. And he didn't believe me. And so the next morning I'm like, you made your decision? He's like, I can't. And I'm like, drop me off at the Air Force recruiters. I walked in, I said, get me out of here as soon as possible.
Wow. Okay.
That was me joining the Air Force.
So it was an ultimatum that pushed you to actually join.
It was. And, it's funny because a lot of people join the Air Force for the same reason, or the military. They join it to get away. I know that it should have been a more, I really want to serve my country type of thing. And it was, but I didn't join. Like, that was not the mindset that I was in when I actually joined the military. Right. I wasn't ready. That's why I had not joined yet, because I wasn't ready. And then I was just like, I'm done. It was my escape.
Oh, wow. So the patriotism was always there.
Oh, yeah.
But that wasn't the push that actually had you take that step. It was there, but it was something else going on in life that was actually like, okay, drop me off at the recruiter. I'm going in. It just so happens you happen to be patriotic at the same time.
Right. And I would have probably had made a better decision on branch of service, on, how I joined, career path. I probably would have prepared for the PT test. I didn't do any of that. I was just like, let's go.
So how soon after you were dropped off at the Air Force recruiter's office did you actually leave to go to basic?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. Wow.
And I had to get a waiver.
Why is that?
For a medical reason. I had to get a waiver. So they pushed that fast.
Wow. And what year did you join?
1996.
96. Wow. What was I doing in 96?
Hey, don't make me feel old.
No.
I don't.
Same year Tupac died, for some of those who.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot going on that year.
Yeah. 96.
Wow. Okay, so now you join, go to basic training, had to get your waiver, and then after that, where was tech school?
So I went to tech school at Shepherd for 6 weeks.
Shepherd, that was where my tech school was at.
Yeah,
What was your first job?
Human resources, not human resources, health services management.
Health services.
The paper pushers in the medical group.
Is that kind of similar to like hospital administration?
Yeah, medical records. They taught us a lot of stuff that we never used because they always had contractors doing it. Like, they taught us how to do coding, and I loved it. Like, that's hard. That was one of the hardest tests to pass, was the coding test. And then we didn't even get to use it because they have contractors.
That's crazy. Got it. Okay. So, and how long did you do that career for?
So I was, a year. I was only in that career field for a year.
Is it because you cross-trained or what happened?
I was a forced lateral retrain. What happened is they took 4AOs, which they were called. They were in the CSSs in the medical group. We didn't have personnelists.
Oh.
So when they pulled the 4AOs from the CSS, or the commander support staff, they had to bring more of them over into being personnelists to fulfill those slots. And I had a very horrific experience in my first duty section and subsequent duty sections. And I was like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
That seems to be the story of my life, right? Oh, this ain't working. Bye.
You know what? I'm starting to see a trend. That's the second time, right? They say, okay, once it happens 3 times, then that's when it's a trend.
It's the trend of my life.
So when you said you essentially had to hit them with a bye, Felicia.
Yes.
And then what was next?
I was doing personnel. They sent me to the what was called the military personnel flight at the time. I was in training, which is one of the dumbest places to put a brand new.
Oh, wow. So you were overseeing training.
I was in formal training, but like they didn't let me do anything. Yeah, I know. And that was a toxic environment as well. I experienced a lot of toxicity in the Air Force. And I had a lot of bad things happen.
And that's unfortunate. If you ever saw the episode where I was being interviewed, I shared my stories with toxic environments. It's unfortunate that, it's there.
Well, what's tricky about mine, and people look at me crazy when I say this, but I dealt with a lot of racism.
Please elaborate.
I was married to a black man, and people did not like that.
Really?
Yes.
That's crazy. That's crazy. You would think, right? You going into that, environment, organization, you wouldn't have to deal with that, but
that was mostly what transpired. I'm not going to say it's always, and I'm not going to say that I was never a part of the problem, but there were some situations that I was treated not so great. And I'm talking about being like backed into a corner physically, and
wow.
Yeah. So my career was hard.
You're preaching to the choir, because I'll share some of my stuff. But okay, so personnel. Listen, how long did you do personnel?
So I did personnel till I actually got out of the military. So I was doing that for about 10 years. However, sometimes bad things can turn into fortunate things.
Okay.
So I was in the MPF for like the first 6 years of my first 5 years of my personnel career. And when I moved to Japan, I was on something called an unfavorable information file. Okay. And so people in my old career field, they don't want the dirtbag airmen in the MPF. They want to send them out to the units. They send all the dirtbags out.
Interesting.
Oh, it's a trend. You piss them off at the MPF, they sending you to a unit.
Going to a unit.
Yeah, and then the unit stuff gets all jacked up and they get mad. That's why a lot of career fields hate personnelists, because of what they experience out in the units.
It's funny because it's true.
It is. It's so true. But here's the funny thing. I wasn't a dirtbag airman. I just made mistakes, and I didn't have good leadership. So when and here's the funny thing, they had just taken, and I know it's gonna be a super long podcast, but I don't care. They had just taken,
it's your show.
I know, they had just taken the maintainers out of the flying squadrons and put them under maintenance. And so they had to redo the manning, right? So they had to do a manning study. Well, they forgot to give a crap about the commander support staffs. I was an office of 1.
Oh, wow. And what rank were you at this time?
I was staff sergeant. And that's another thing, as I was going to get out when I was a senior airman. But then 9/11 happened and I couldn't separate like I was supposed to. We were on stop loss.
I remember the stop loss.
Right after stop loss, because they tried to send me to ALS. I said, no, I'm not going to get the retainability. Then I got a line number. Then 9/11 happened. Stop loss happened. And there was an exemption in there that if you had already declined retainability, you can pull that. And so I got retainability.
Oh, wow.
My leadership was pissed.
Oh, I can't get rid of her that easy.
No, and I was going to be an NCO. So that was my first time being at a new duty station as an NCO. Because, if you put it on at your current location, you're still treated like an airman.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I showed up
just
as an
airman
NCO.
with extra stripe.
Right. And so I went in 1 deep. And if anybody doesn't know this, the person in the CSS manages the unfavorable information files.
Okay.
So I was managing my own, which was against regulation.
Conflict of interest type of deal.
The commander told the MPF, and they said deal with it.
Oh, wow. I've seen stuff like that before.
So, yeah, but I had great leadership out in the units. I loved working out there. My first sergeant was amazing. Matter of fact, he got my UIF thrown out.
Nice.
Because when he came in, he's like, my last name was Johnson at the time. He's like, Sergeant Johnson, get in here. And I go in there and I, talking to the first sergeant, and he has a stack of UIFs because I gave them to him to review.
Yeah.
And he's like, is this your UIF? And I was like, yes, it is. And he's like, you didn't like shred it? Oh, no. Why would I do that? Integrity first, right? So he's like, hold on a second. He went and talked to the commander, came back. He's like, you don't have a UIF anymore. He's like, you need to get somebody else to do the update.
Hey, that's what happens when you have a good first sergeant.
Right. No, he was amazing. He saved me another time later on. But I really enjoyed my experience out there. I became infamous for doing the work of 3 as 1.
I can see that.
Yeah. And so the MPF tried to pull me back. Not good for me. And so I ended up back out in a unit.
So quick question. So when you went to the unit, were these during the days of the orderly rooms?
They were already switched over to commander support staffs, but they were still called orderly rooms.
Yeah.
Old school people still call them orderly rooms.
I'm old school. And I remember when I first came in.
Yeah, they were called orderly rooms. Yeah.
Those were so amazing. Did you ever work in orderly room?
When I first became health services management, I worked in what was called the orderly room, and they changed it to commander support staff when they did that switch with personnel. And they used to be super manned.
What does that mean? They
used to be like really good manning, and you got really good customer service in there.
It was awesome. I'm gonna tell you what.
Yeah.
Back for anyone that's in the Air Force now, and the orderly rooms are not around anymore. You have a CSS, right?
Yeah, commander support staff.
It was so easy. You went TDY, you just went to orderly room, gave them your orders.
We took care of people back then, and some of us still did after we weren't supposed to. I was one of those. I did a lot of things to help out and take care of. They know how to fly, or they know how to turn wrenches. They don't know how to do other stuff.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That's like them asking me to go do their job.
Exactly. So
I took care of my people. I sure did, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it, unless I had a terrible supervisor.
I remember when they made that switch, and then we all had to become responsible for like our own admin type, where we were just goofing things up.
Remember when? Well, now they still do it, but I remember when they started having y'all doing your own TDY orders.
Yes.
No, my people did not. That was before cat cards.
Nice.
They can't come arrest me now, right?
I would still be mindful of what you say.
I took care of my people.
That's good.
Yeah, and I always took care of the little guy. That's another reason why another reason why people didn't like me. Because I would, like, if somebody was trying to do somebody dirty,
you would step up.
Not on my watch.
No, and I was the same way, and that's why I think we have similar stories on the pressures we felt. I think is to a point, and I don't know if it's still like this, but it's if you don't comply and do it their way, and if you actually look out for your people, you actually can get burnt for that.
Well, if you do it their way, you can still get burnt, because if their way is wrong and and somebody gets pissed off, your name is on it. And I had that happen to me. And so I turned, man, I'm an extremist.
Yes.
So the first time I got burnt.
Doctor, I concur.
Yeah. The first time I got burnt bad, when I got my Article 15 for doing what I was told and it was wrong. I no longer did that, and I pissed a lot of people off. I mean, I'm talking about, I had a major tell me to give an ID card to somebody that wasn't authorized to get an ID card. And I said, sir, I will be more than happy to log out and let you log in.
There you go.
And I got in trouble for that.
Yeah, even though you were completely in the right, but I'm pretty sure it was not. They said it was tactful and respectful.
No, I was respectful.
Oh, yeah?
You just don't like being told no.
Hey, well, I've been in situations like that too. Okay, so now personnel is taking care of people, looking out for the little guy. Let's get closer towards the end of that 11 years. At what point was that decision made? Okay, it's time for that next chapter. I need to start transitioning out.
So hopefully I can make it through this part. So I had deployed at the end of my time in Japan. I actually extended my my date there, my J.R.O.T.C, whatever. I can't even remember what's called. J.R.O.T.C. What is
I forget too.
date? It's the date that you can stay in country. There's like agreements where you can only stay in country for so long. So I got that extended because had I not, it was my bucket. Had I not taken my deployment that was mine, the person that would have missed his baby being born, and also his wife was high risk. And I was like, no. So I made the sacrifice play, I guess.
Team player.
Yeah, my children sacrificed quite a bit because my supervisor was terrible and made me take them back to the States 6 weeks prior to my departure date.
Oh, wow.
So I missed a lot of time with my kids. So I went on my deployment, loved every minute of it. I had the unique opportunity of being the first embedded personnelist in a maintenance operations package.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, it was amazing. I loved it.
Trailblazer.
Oh my God, I loved it. And then when I got back, they had extended us, so I had to leave, like get out of country, right? The person that took my place in my deployed location said, Captain so-and-so says you don't deserve a going away, so we weren't able to plan one for you prior to leaving. I was salty about that.
Oh yeah, as you should.
So I booked my plane ticket for like 2 days after I got in country, and my commander's like, "When's you're going away?" I'm like, "Sorry, dude." She said, "I don't deserve one." My ex-husband was staying in my place. He packed out my stuff for me. He was on restriction. Oh. Yeah, he did some not so good stuff.
Sounds like there's another story.
Yeah, it's another story, but it leads up to why I'm getting out of the military. He ended up staying in my hotel with me for 2 nights, and the night before I left, he did some inappropriate things that have scarred me for life.
Oh no!
So we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So I was a fighter in the Air Force all the way up until that moment. I put it behind me. I boxed it up because I had to go get my kids, and I had to PCS. So I traveled cross country, but even when that stuff happens and you box it up, it's almost like it eats at you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went to another unit because I had a UIF again. And they don't like dirtbags in the MPF. So I went to another unit, loved being in that unit. I was I was in a CSS with the gunships. So I got to learn a new airframe. Like, I'm a nerd. Like, I'm up there like, hey, what y'all do? Like, what is this? Loved it. I loved my supervision. And then they decided to pull the personnelists out of the CSS.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I had to go to the MPF, and the MPF hated me. Within a year. It took them a year, not even a year, to hate me because they were screwing my people over. And guess what? Not on my watch. So they were gunning for me, and I had no fight left because I didn't get help for what had happened to me. I was going to mental health, and they didn't want to help me. I couldn't even build trust with a therapist because they'd give you a new one every time. So I never opened up, and I guess they never noticed that I was like out of fight. And so they're like, hey, the Air Force needs to draw down. You can separate if you want to. I can write a letter and you can separate.
Was this part of like the force shaping stuff?
It was before force shaping, but it was the first thing that they tried, and it was illegal. So they didn't do it no more. So they kicked out a lot of people in 2008 for mental health without doing MABs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was one of those, and I was like, okay, fine. And I left.
Just a flat out separation.
Yeah, because my goal before that had happened was I was become first sergeant and help the little guy. Yeah, I'd be allowed to help the little guy then.
Yeah, yeah.
So no, the fight was out of me, and yeah, it was a sad moment for me, and I didn't even deal with that either.
Have you ever dealt with that, or is that still?
No, I am now. But for about 6 years, I didn't. I isolated myself. I was a stay-at-home mom and military spouse. Yeah, I tried to make friends, but when you are so broken, you have no fight in you. It's just you're broken, and I was broken, and so I was like, well, like my kids want me, so I'll just stay here and be with them. And I essentially like died on the inside over 6 years.
Well, sorry you had to deal with that. So it sounds like you reached a point, you lost the fight. You know what? It's like throwing the towel. Now it's time to transition out. This is Transition Tales.